Okay, stats group. Today we're going to look at another day of box plots. Today we're really going to be focusing on is once we have the box plot drawn, we're going to look at information based on that box plot. Okay. So the other day we learned about a box plot, how to create one. Remember, a box plot is literally a picture of the 5-number summary. And our 5-number summary was the min, was the minimum, the lower quartile, also known as Q1, the median, the upper quartile or Q3, and then the max. So that's your 5-number summary of data. Okay? So today we're going to talk about spread and interquartile range. Okay, and an interquartile range and outliers. Okay? So to begin with, so from the other day we also talked about how within this box and whiskers or box plot, okay, how we have regions, and each region is broken up into 25%. So I have it out here. So each region is 25%. So from, well, in this picture here, we have 60 to 70 is 25% of the data. Then 70 to 75 is another 25%. Then 75 to 80 is another 25, and then finally the last part is another 25%. So a grand total of 100%. So Q1 is called the lower quartile because it incorporates the lower 25% of the data. Okay, Q3 is the upper quartile because it carries 75% of the data. So this 85 and this whatever this data was talking about represents 75% of the data. From 60 to 85 is 75% of the data. Okay? The box itself, in between quartile 1 and quartile 3, is representing 50% of the data. Okay? And then 85 to 100 in this region here, that's our upper 25% of the data. So the last 25% of the data. Okay? So here's a nice little question. If there's 80 pieces of data for a box plot, how much data is in each quarter? So if there's 80 pieces of data, they're broken up into 4 quarters. So that's literally 80 divided by 4, which is 20. So there's 20 pieces of data in each quarter. And what that 80 pieces of data just literally means how, and then the box plot literally shows us how far spread out the information is. Okay? So we have some words here. Spread. Spread is literally the range. That's the range. It's another word for range, the spread. So, and the range is just the difference between the high and the low. That's the difference between, oh, looks like I spelled difference wrong. D-E-F-E-R-E-N-C. Here, let me start over. The difference between high and low. Okay? If something is concentrated, that just simply means tightly packed. Okay? Now, in this chart up here, this region right here from 70 to 75 is tightly packed because look at how close the first quartile is and the median is. So you have 20 pieces of data inside this little box right here, and look how tightly packed it is. So that's why it's called tightly packed. It's concentrated. There's a concentration right here. Okay. And then our interquartile range, we did that already. Remember, interquartile range is literally IQR for interquartile range. Interquartile range is equal to the third quartile minus the first quartile. All right, now, So now we pick up this new formula called an outlier formula. This value 1.5, okay? So first of all, here's the formula. Oh, let me tell you what the interquartile, the outlier formula is first, okay? It tells the range of values where all data should be between, okay? So this tells the range of values where all data should be between. Okay, and that's the key word. It should be between. So if something lies outside of that, then they're called outliers. Okay? And here's a little example of what that outlier formula is. Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR, or else it's Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. Okay? So our maximum should be at Q3 plus 1.5 times the interquartile range. So that's the highest that would go out. This would be the max. And then Q1 minus the 1.5 times the interquartile range will be the minimum value. Okay? That's the minimum number that we would go out to see where our data should land. Okay? Now this 1.5 is just an arbitrary number that the scientists come up with to say this is how far out we should be from the interquartile range. Okay? And we'll talk about what that actually looks like when we do some problems. Okay? So these things right here are asking us, these outliers will ask us about our actual minimum value and our actual maximum value. Are they too far? Are they too far away? Are they too far away? If they're too far away, then they're called an outlier. But if they fall within what we expect, then they're good data, more or less. All right, so let's pull this away so we can ask questions. So here I have a box plot that's already produced. What do all these values represent? Let's first of all talk about that. So what does this 13 represent? That's right, that is our minimum value. This 20 is our Q1, that's the first quartile. 37 is the median. 42 is the third quartile, Q3, and then 49 is the max. Okay? In which quarter is the data most spread out? And then explain. Well, look at your information. Where are the quarters? Right, here's a quarter right here. Here's a 25%. Here's a 25%. Right, each of these represent 25% of the data. So which one of these data pieces are most spread out? That's right, it's between 20 and 37. So what they say explain, we have to write it out. So first of all, we're going to say the second. So this would be considered the first quarter. This is considered the second quarter. This is the third quarter. This is the fourth quarter. And think about it, for those of you that play sports and you have 4 quarters, this is the first quarter, first 25%. This is the second 25%. This is the third 25%, and this is the fourth 25%. So which quarter? We're in the second quarter. So the second quarter, Okay, now how do we know? Well, we're going to write out that spread out. It has the most spread. Okay, has the most spread, and we can figure out the spread. 37 minus 20 is 17. It has a spread of 17. Okay, and we could figure out all of these spreads. From 13 to 20, what's the spread there? That's right, 20 minus 13. So the spread here is 7. We did 20 minus 13. Okay, we just did this spread, 17. 37 to 42. Well, how do I go from a 37 to a 42? That's right, it is 5 units away. And if you're not sure, 42 minus 37 is 5. And then 42 to 49, that's right, that spread is 7 units away. So those have a spread of 7. Okay, so 49 minus 42 is 7. And which quarter is the data most concentrated? Well, most concentrated means the smallest spread, from 37 to 42. So that's the third quarter. So the third quarter, okay, the spread is 5. So 42 minus 37 equals 5. That's your explanation. Is 24 in the bottom quarter? Well, bottom quarter means what? That's the first quarter. That's right, the lowest number. Where is 24? Well, here's 20, here's 25. This is the second quarter. It's not the bottom quarter. Okay, it's not the bottom quarter. So no. So 24 is in the second quarter. Okay. Which quarters are evenly spread? Right. We are in the first quarter and in the last quarter, first and the fourth. They have a spread of 7. So the first and fourth quarters, the spread is 7. Okay. All right, now notice we have this thing called an outlier. Are the minimum and maximum outliers? Explain, show your work to verify. So that's our formula. That was our formula from the first page. Okay? So I'm going to do my Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. So we have to figure out what that number is. And is it smaller than or larger than this minimum value? And then we're going to figure out, is the maximum an outlier? So that's Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR. So then we're going to figure out, is this maximum value too far out, or is it okay based on this 1.5 value? All right, so our first thing is we have to find the interquartile range. So where am I going to do that? I'll do that over here on the side. So the interquartile range, so the IQR is Q3 minus Q1. So our Q3 was 42 and our Q1 was 20. So we have 42 minus 20, which is 12. So this is our interquartile range. So I literally just fill it in these spots, and we got to do some crunching out. So Q1 was 20 minus 1.5 times 12, and we got to come up with a value. And I'm going to do my other side here so I can just start getting stuff typed into a calculator. Q3 was 42 plus the 1.5 times the 12, and we'll come up with a value. Okay. So where's my calculator? Let me get these typed in. So I have 20 minus 1.5 times 12. And that gives us a 2. And then 42 plus 1.5 times 12. And that gives us 60. All right, so our outlier values would fall beyond the 2 and the 60. That's what that means. Our outliers would fall beyond these two values. Okay? Outliers are beyond the 2 and 60. So in other words, all of our values need to be between, values need to be 2 and 60. For those of you that, from your algebra days, remember brackets mean include, or we can write it in our set notation. Okay, so our data, so where is all of our data? Do we have any numbers that are less than 2? No, our smallest piece of data is 13, so 13 is not an outlier. Is 60 is our maximum value greater than 60? No, it's not. So our min and max are not outliers. Okay, so min and max, so 13 and 49 are between outlier values. Are between, so therefore not outliers. Okay? So if one of them were, if they're both outliers, then fine, they're both outliers. If one of them's an outlier, then it's an outlier, no big deal. But it's just, this is our outlier formula. Are we beyond, is our maximum value beyond this calculation? Is our minimum value beyond this calculation? Okay, so in other words, is our minimum value too small? No, it's not, based on our data that we have. Okay, we're going to see those same questions, not as many, but we'll see it in the last one as well. Okay, let's look at so here's our graph. I started at part-time work hours for students. Okay, so students, I think I grabbed this data from, I don't know where I got it from. Okay, but we're talking about the hours that students work within a week. So we have a minimum value of 3 hours working during a week, and then up to 16 hours during a work week. Okay, in a week. And then here are our other values. So let me highlight these just so you guys can see them. We have a minimum of 3, Q1, median, Q2, Q3. The median is Q2. And then here's our max. Okay, so let me label these. So here is Q1, here's Q2, here's the median, Q3. Oh my goodness, what did I do? I did it again. That's not Q1. This is the minimum value. This is Q1. Here is the median. Here's Q3. And then here is the max. Okay. Here is the first quarter of data. That's the first 25%. Here is the second 25%. Here is the third 25%. And here is the fourth 25%. Okay. All right. In which quarter is the data most spread? Well, I'm going to take an educated guess. It's right in here, the first quarter. Okay, because we can easily figure out the spreads. I'll put the spreads down below. So this spread is 10 minus 3, 7. This spread is 11 minus 10, so it's a 1. This spread, 14 minus 11 is 3, and we have 16 minus 2. 16 minus 14 is a 2. So these are your spreads right here. I'll highlight those in blue so you guys can see them. There. So which quarter is the most spread? Quarter 1. First quarter equals 7, spread of 7. Most concentrated, which quarter is the data most concentrated? That's right, it's in the second quarter because we have a spread of 1, right? Second quarter has a spread of 1. Okay. All right, are the minimum and maximum outliers? Okay, so we're going to do our formulas again. Okay, so I'm going to write out the formulas. So this is for the minimum, Q1 minus 1.5 times the interquartile range. And then we're going to do the max. That's Q3 minus the 1.5 times the interquartile range. Okay, I'll do the interquartile range right here. So Q3 minus Q1. So we have 14 minus 10, which is 4. All right, so Q1, 10 minus 1.5 times 4. And then over here we had 14 minus 1.5 times 4. So once we figure out the minimum value and the maximum value, all we're going to do is go look at our mins here and see if we're beyond. Okay? All right, let me get those typed into the calculator. That's what we have a calculator for. So I have 10 minus 1.5 times 4. That's 4. And then we have 14. That's a plus. Why did I put minus? Make sure I put plus there. Guys, make sure you put plus. So 14 plus 1.5 times 4 is 20. Okay, so all of our data has to be between 4 and 20. If our data is not between 4 and 20, then those pieces that are not between are considered outliers. Okay, so data needs to be between 4 and 20. Is our data between 4 and 20? Well, the minimum value. Well, the minimum value is 3. That is not between 4 and 20. So 3 is an outlier. 3 is outlier. And let's see, our maximum was at 16. That is definitely between 4 and 20. So this is our only outlier. Okay? So 3 is an outlier only. Okay? All right, so you're going to see some of those questions like that, asking about spread, so you don't have to worry, that's just based on your finding your quartiles. You're going to see that in today's work. All right, guys, have a good day.